In 2014, the Islamic State group turned Raqqa into its regional capital as their caliphate spread across Syria and neighbouring Iraq. For 3 years, they imposed their extreme version of the Islamic law on the city until the Syrian Democratic Forces took back full control in October last year. These are the pictures that might come to mind when you think of Raqqa: fighting on the streets, buildings in ruins and civilians in suffering. But of course, it wasn't always like that. These images, put together as part of a new online project called My Raqqa, show a very different picture of life as it was before the jihadists invaded the community. Well, on today's Perspective segment, we're joined here in the studio by Lamis Aljasem, the brainchild behind that photo project. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to us here on France 24 in Perspective. First of all, why were you so adamant that these pictures of these glory days, the bygone era of Raqqa, why were you so adamant that this had to be preserved?
Well, unfortunately, because, first of all, good morning. And unfortunately, because the city, Raqqa in specific, has a very unique story, I would say. Because Raqqa was not even famous in Syria. No one would know about it. It would not get that much of a coverage in the media. And when it became famous, suddenly it became famous because of that link with the Islamic State, ISIS. And I think this is like the worst reputation any city could have. Then in October, it's actually 3 days after defeating the jihadist group, I decided that since the city is completely destroyed, or 70% of the city destroyed, I thought that maybe it is the time, because first of all, I wanted to remember people, and to show the city, as any normal city, and then to remind people, locals mainly, and other people, that there was a place exists there. There was a city. It has all these magnificent monuments, as you can see.
Now, talk us through how the project actually works. How is it managed, and where do all these pictures come from?
Okay, so I managed the project, and I was very lucky to get in contact with one of the photographers who actually flee Syria just two years ago. So he stayed until later stage, even when ISIS invaded the city. And he was so happy when I told him I had this project to reintroduce Raqqa, rebrand Raqqa. I wanted the beautiful image that the locals know of Raqqa, to see what we know, and to tell the world our story, our version of the story about Raqqa. And he was so happy, and he decided to give me all his archive. And many of the pictures that you can see from above in the air are pictures that he took in 2010. And he told me that he didn't know what was the purpose. He went up in a helicopter and he decided to take a picture from every corner in the city. And I think now it became the purpose, because we want to show the city how it used to be, and to give a little bit of hope, maybe, just to... So that was like part of the pictures come from this photographer. Other photographers and tourists, I contacted them, who visited Raqqa before in 2010, 2009. I contacted them and I asked them for their pictures, and they were so happy because they have visited Raqqa and they knew what I really wanted to show.
And do you have a favourite image in particular? Hopefully we can bring it up on the screen behind us here. And talk us through why you like this picture so much.
Well, this one. It's actually this one. So this picture, this is the Naim square. And Naim means paradise in Arabic. And this square, in every person from Raqqa, in every person's mind in Raqqa, this is a place in our childhood memories. Is linked to ice cream shop, which is just on the corner. So when we think of this square, we think of the ice cream shop. But unfortunately, for 3 years, ISIS used to do their beheading in that square. So we felt that, I think, because part of this project is about identity, is about like who we are. Who we are is we think of this square as the ice cream shop, is we think of these beautiful and positive memories. And when I published this picture, I saw how like locals interacted with it. I love it, and I love that I told people that, look, the square is a place that we like because it's a place of ice cream shop that we used to go when we were young. And that's what I want to tell people about Raqqa. I want to tell them about, as I said, our version of history, our identity.
Do you have any other reaction from people living in Raqqa today? What do they make of your project?
They love it. They love it. They're so happy. They're so sick of all these pictures that come about Raqqa, and they're so happy to share their stories, especially the ones who they want to go back. They tell me that this makes us proud. This makes us so happy. This brings. I tell you, it's like part of identity, history. It's all these things connected together. They feel so happy to see colorful pictures and smiley faces and all these, as I told you, these historical monuments which still exist, that's a happy news as well to tell everyone.
I just want to ask you a more maybe bleaker question. What is life like now in Raqqa 7 months since the defeat of the Islamic State group? How are people coming to terms with life there amid all the rubble and the ruin?
That's a very important question. Although I'm showing the positive side, I'm showing all these beautiful pictures, how life used to be. But I think part of this project is actually preparing for the future, telling people how it used to be and what we can do to rebuild. Life today in Raqqa is really sad because I think Raqqa, part of this, why I started this project, because Raqqa was an obsession for the media for 3 years, and now we barely talk about Raqqa, we barely mention Raqqa. Now there is a time for people to talk more about what's next. I feel that the media just turned their back and they don't want to talk about it. There are still people under the rubble. There is no clear plan or any strategy to rebuild the city. So life in Raqqa today is, I would say, it's in limbo. People don't know. Although the people I talk to, they're eager to go back, but there's no plan.
And very briefly at the end, you're of course now living in Paris. What does the future hold for you, and how do you plan to roll out this online project in the future?
Okay, so the project now is continuing to interview people, to talk to people from Raqqa who they're returning back, the people who they're planning to go back. The project will continue to support cultural events if they will happen, and just to support the image of the city. We just want to show our city through locals. How do locals see Raqqa, and I'm planning to go back as soon as possible, I would say.
Great. Lamis Aljasem from the online photo project My Raqqa. Thank you for coming in to talk to us here on Perspective on France 24. Thank you very much.
Thank you.